We should be good. Do you think you might want to play?
I'm gonna turn that on.
Yes, please turn it on. It'll heat up quick in here. No, Angie, I think we're good.
You think that's enough for you?
Yes.
Okay. Because we've got is that enough napkins? I can. Yeah, I'm gonna bring. When I bring my
Okay.
this.
Is that going to be cool enough? Because we're going to heat right up.
I can,
Set on.
I can give you a.
It's as cold as it goes.
Well,
If people start getting here, it gets hot.
how about I turn it to medium and cool it down, and then I'll turn it to low whenever it rains.
And then turn it back up if it gets hot.
Yeah. That'll be my job. Give me the high sign. You need it changed.
He's going to mute my phone here.
I don't have to do the demo, Christy. You can.
You're so good at it, though. You got it all.
I know.
You know?
I
It's
know.
all that stuff that I do.
All right. I was just gonna.
I would take twice as long, do half as much. So I've not shared the screen yet, right?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I'm super excited for this. I hope that this house thing works out.
Oh, I know.
It's one of those weird things that I just.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. Come on in. Get one of the companies.
I know, exactly.
Grab a good one.
Hi, Rebecca North.
Chris Barnett.
Nice
Nice
to meet
you. Nice to meet you. Yes. It's very strict and good person to break in here.
Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, I've never been in this building before, so I guess I came
Oh,
to make sure I
circle
knew.
around.
So-
Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Michael Hart.
Jamie Feinsorgi. Nice to meet you.
Rebecca, where are you from?
School of Natural Resources.
Okay.
Running water quality.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I don't know what the composition of, what
Well, we're
category
looking
I'm
for ag
checking.
and
but,
environment, so you would cover actually both of those.
Yeah.
Both of those, so.
True, yeah.
Well,
Good.
Awesome.
You'll see, we're looking for general knowledge here.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was a selection of assistant professor, versus tenure.
No, not so much along those lines, as much as we're looking for some on-campus folks, some field, county office folks, leadership, so we're trying to do that.
Yeah, we have 6 acres.
I just returned from the field. I'm sampling these lakes.
Whereabouts?
I was actually at Prairie Fork.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you know where that is, but
Yeah.
it's aimed off Highway I-70, and it's owned by the Jones, so and then they host all kinds of other education and conservation.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's great because it's protected or it's not open to the public.
Right,
So we can put expensive.
It's like,
in the lake and it's-
I was involved in some water quality, and actually got the field, but they don't know water quality testing they did down Pine River and that fork of the lake down there. We were doing all the scientists and seeing that they couldn't see past an inch deep or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very familiar. Yeah, I spend most of my time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different for me, so I'm Canadian. I just moved down here 2 years ago. So I'm used to big blue lakes and
Yes.
by definition, it's
Yeah. Yeah, no, we like to grow lots of things, aren't we?
Yeah. including actually, so I'm on Stevens Lake here in town.
Uh-huh.
Is currently experiencing a toxic algal bloom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Received,
From the
yeah.
geese and the fertilizers, or how do you
All the
think?
above, urban runoff, yeah. So,
So
yeah.
they restricted
You know,
something
like a Band-Aid.
I don't know, the city's calling me to see, so we do the algotoxin testing and stuff, and so we're gonna sample it. I don't know what they're gonna do from a regulatory. I think the beach is closed, isn't it like Labor Day, they usually close it anyways?
Yeah, I think you're right, it may be. You know, we took our kids there 2 or 3 times. I just said, oh,
We had the Mackinac Creek is like 1 part of our house.
Yeah, no, so they do monitor coli. So the goose poop was a problem, that's where it would come up. And, you know, so far their levels look good, but they don't measure for the outcomes. So that's why we thought we had the ability to do it, so.
Yeah.
People complain that they can walk across the lake.
Exactly.
We didn't realize the danger of the
Right.
water moccasin, but
It's one of those things you look back and think,
yeah, but it was, but I'm excited for her to be able to.
yeah.
But we do miss kind of being, sometimes we do miss like the
Full on
hometown.
interest.
No,
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in
Good.
a small,
I'm sure you have one of them.
least populated county to begin with. And I can remember, so my first actually moved to the house of
Oh, God.
and it'd be like, what's the biggest difference? I'm like, well,
I figured as much.
we used to have one of this. And, maybe once or
I don't want to
twice
give
a
them
week,
any of that.
like one, every couple of weeks, we go to
Thanks for
the neighboring town and buy stuff like.
Oh.
Because like, the difference is, you know, where you buy them.
Oh, from,
Right.
I'm back home in
Yes.
yeah, in trouble?
30 to 45-minute drive.
Uh-oh.
Store it, sold, whatever.
No, but there's still something going on.
Man, I miss stars.
But.
I mean, it's weird, it's really good. I miss
She wanted to
seeing
ask you.
stars.
They're one.
One thing my sister mentioned would be, I went to like, I kids don't,
Mhm.
kids don't ever feel
And
the need
so
to
Kayla said you guys put down half of it for because
because
she
she
would
would
like
like
for
for
us to send you guys.
Yeah.
And this would be good for me
kind
for
of
the
stuff,
brain,
whatever, so like they can still be
There's two
able
parts to the process. One
actively
is,
social
you know,
without going out.
constructing the
And
invoice
like
for
what
billing.
we used to do is
And
have the
then the
right
second
grade
part is
elevator
stuff
right
that.
downtown. We all go
And
and
that's what
sit in
I'm-
the parking lot of the green
We
elevator,
have
and call it up down, right? Is that there?
Yeah.
That's where you met my friend.
Yeah.
She could, you could
You want to know where somebody
Okay,
was, you
we've
go
got a
to
couple
town, you
templates,
see
so-
Oh.
if they were there, you know, like,
Friday and Saturday night.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, you would just cruise.
Yeah, up
around
and down,
something.
right, yeah.
And there was like, we kept getting chased out of
Well,
places.
But you know what I'm saying,
So like everybody would.
That's what I
always
realized, I really
get
was
chased
like,
out.
yeah, well, and this is one of those
I
elaborate
just,
slide
that kind
sets, you
of
know,
blows
to
my
Right.
mind,
to
that,
kind
like,
of get
kids
some
these
fruit.
days don't have.
Melissa, did you put in changes to one slide?
Do
Do you want to do it, or do you remember what you were going to do? It's this slide right here.
And I'm like, what do you mean she doesn't need it? She's like, well, she can
I'll let you-
connect it, whenever she wants to connect it on her phone. Oh, that's, yeah, that's not, yeah, I mean, it's just
I
different,
think
very
what words am I
different.
saying?
But on the other hand, so
Stop it.
our oldest best friend lives on the same street. And it's like she's living with her child because they walk each other's houses
Yeah,
It's a
all
weird
the time.
keyword.
That's
We get
so
to hang out
nice.
and play together. It's like, I never had that, you know.
Yep.
But then again, she's also.
Right, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Chance.
Steve?
Oh, he had to be.
Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
we
Right.
got teachers, right?
Yeah.
And water.
Yeah, all that.
So, how you doing?
Good. Same old, just chasing.
I know the.
If you look what has happened over the last year, it's just like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you guys are the only constant.
I think we are. We're about the only ones in the same corner that everybody else is moving in. Zachary's moving.
Hey, did you rent a bird the other day?
What's that?
Were you the one who rented the bird?
No, I know.
Okay.
I know Joe in our office.
Okay.
He's been all. He tried it out and rode it all the way down to Rivet's Auto Service.
Because I walked across the street with Hannah the other day, and she's saying somebody in your office is renting
Joe's
this.
big on. He's like, I want to try it. And then he got frustrated because I guess he tried to do it like at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We walked up to one bird and had like 5% charge. Another one had like, so everyone he went to basically didn't have any charge to be able to go anywhere. So he said it was about the 4th one I found that had enough charge to, at least where he felt where he can make it to where he's going.
By then he probably could have walked there.
Probably.
I was pretty proud of myself yesterday. I had a meeting down by Animal Sciences, and I was late
Oh,
and
yeah,
some of that,
yeah.
so I jumped on a bird.
You
And
did?
I
What was your experience?
So it was good.
Yeah.
There was dead ones around, but I had to
Yeah.
be selective.
Did you have to get an app?
Yeah, gotta get the app,
Yep.
get your credit card information. It's just like Uber. Like if you
Yeah.
use that, it's the same kind of format.
Okay.
But yeah, it was funny. I was like, I hope someone sees me right. It's you.
I think it was fun. I want to try it at some point.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was saying, I saw the other day there were 2 people on one. And I was like, oh, we kind of talked about that. You know, it's like there's somebody actually doing it. And they look,
yeah.
it looks very instant.
I was gonna say, there's not a lot of space.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I just kind of wonder when snow and ice and some of that stuff happens, what's gonna.
I assume they'll pull them, but
I don't know. I mean, that's like because if for laying out there, well, if they get covered with snow or somebody that know, or trying to go on with them with ice and hit an ice spell and.
Well, I've seen some people and they've been like booking down like pretty suspect roads and streets with them, and they're like
hit a big old
Jamie,
pothole.
you want to come sit up here so we can switch off these what you're doing?
Um,
Because I think we're gonna have enough chairs.
okay, yeah, I can,
I'll sit down at this end.
sure.
We'll let the folks need to see the screen sit closer.
I can see from everywhere. I can
Good.
sit back there, wherever. So it's.
Yeah. So put yours on one. Yeah. So we haven't heard exactly, but I think most people are coming. One's in by phone. Should I go ahead and start the?
You can share the screen. Oh, you can share our video. You can start the video too.
Yeah.
You have to click the start video.
Here we are. Yes, we're on camera now.
Yeah.
So everybody behave.
Yes.
It's a little fuzzy though.
Okay, we look skinnier that way.
that's right.
Yes. And it wasn't
Sure.
not Tim
We're very comfortable.
Evans. Tim Baker coming in by phone.
I do pretty see.
I'm wondering if some others come in by phone because there seems to be a travel distance today.
Wherever you're.
Yes, it is. So behave.
It's fine. We'll
How are you doing?
cut the beginning out.
Okay.
Do some editing.
Cut it out and send it to YouTube.
So I'm kind of in charge of the temperature in the room here. So if you guys get
Oh, it's
cold, let me know.
It's fine with me. So yeah.
I know.
So let me go back up. You already go there, Jamie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're
So
not going to stream my whole screen.
Those were the suggested people, but just,
I share the
like
whole
for.
screen.
Share the whole screen so we don't have the weird.
Yeah, we had a bunch of,
Right.
yesterday, we only listed a few people, but most of these
Sure
people,
that's gonna
they
work.
prefer to not here.
Okay.
Right, and the same with health and safety.
You're gonna follow along with your laptop, make sure
But it's a start. Yeah,
projecting.
yeah.
I can.
We changed to Windows
Well-
7 Basic, right?
I can't follow along
Oh,
because
that's
I'm
fine.
logged in.
Oh, yeah.
But we can ask the folks on that join remotely if they can see. Okay, if they can hear.
That's fine. Did it cool off out there? I haven't been outside yet today.
No, it
I thought it was
hasn't.
today. It's tomorrow. It's supposed
Tomorrow,
to
I
be.
think
Today's
it's
the last
supposed- I
hot
hope
day.
so.
isn't
I
it?
hope
Okay, it's tomorrow.
Seems like they took a lot of there was some rain that they had.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
they
supposed
taken
to.
some of that out.
I think they have. It was supposed to rain all weekend. Now it's not.
I know.
You can still use rain.
Typical.
Mm-hmm. I was driving home last night and I watched a giant rain cloud go just south
Mhm.
Yeah.
of town, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, those guys. You get rain sun yesterday?
Not that I know of.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
Unless they cut right between.
I did see a cloud on the way home that I thought was going to be rain, but it never rained at our house.
Huh.
No.
Okay. Does it look like it's
Yeah,
the direction of the rain?
I didn't get any. We didn't get any. At least I know I live with a pet. So that's usually the telltale.
Okay.
Close.
Have
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, we don't know who's joining by phone.
Charles, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Wow, we're good.
Thank you. Good. Turn this up a little.
It's nice they've outfitted all these rooms with drop down mics and all that stuff.
Well, this one has it. Our other room we were eating in doesn't have
Doesn't
that.
have
We
that.
had to- we were taping a camera to the TV and it fell off in the middle of the first demo here.
Because we didn't use duct tape. We used
That's
packing
right.
tape.
We use packing tape. You
Use
got
better
duct
tape, you know.
Yep.
Duct tape doesn't.
Yep.
And bail wire.
I couldn't find any duct tape in our closet though.
Oh, no.
Packing tape.
That should be our primary tool.
There should be a whole, yeah, there should be a
Duct
whole
tape
drawer
and a-
full of duct tape.
And a Swiss Army knife. That's all you need.
We had a lot of packing tape for a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
from
did.
the move.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we just moved down here in in May.
May.
From where?
From Mumford Hall. It used to be right downstairs from right over there. And but we're moving onward and upward, right? Once we officially joined Extension, we got into a different office situation. We have a few more private offices than we had. We were all like shared offices before, and that's good in some ways, brings challenges in other ways. So
That's what I was going to ask you in relation to here. Where exactly are you at all's office?
we're around the corner, right at the hall,
Just right at the hall. Okay.
first floor.
Okay.
All that whole end down there.
Okay.
So we've got a couple people up on the second floor still, unfortunately, but mostly we're down here.
Century's a nice spot. So
It's pretty central to campus.
probably, I would say, is it more modern than Mumford as far as?
I think the building's about 10 years newer.
I would say.
But I wouldn't
Well,
call
I mean,
it
that's
modern.
Call it modern, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know when I turn on my heater, it's like clang, 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 and
Yeah, we don't
some
get the
days it
clang,
doesn't
clang,
really
clang.
kick on, or it gets hot and I have to open my window up or whatever.
We went through our old office space. The door was open. It's like,
Hi,
there's
thank
so
you.
much
Hi.
space in here. Like they're just waiting for us to be.
Have a seat. Chris
Grant.
Barnett. Grant Carson.
That's me.
Yeah.
You're
Chris Barnett.
yeah, Chris. Got it.
And we'll do introductions here in a minute. So wherever you want to sit. We'll get started here in a. You find the building okay, I guess?
I did.
Yeah.
Where Gentry was.
Good. Yep. Good.
Slide around Joey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Long time no see.
Well, couple days.
Got room?
I think Rob's gonna come. I'm just waiting on a couple other people.
How are you?
His assistant didn't email and say that he was coming. He just texted me
Okay. Yeah.
that he was joining remotely.
Mm-hmm. Got another person or two to come in remotely here. That would be good. So Melissa, you can probably come up to the table if you need to take notes.
Yeah, I wanted to see how
might
many
be-
more folks we're gonna fill out.
Okay. Well,
What do you think?
you're
You're in
probably
charge
fine.
and-
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Join the table.
Yeah.
Oh, if I had to.
These chairs are so uncomfortable.
These are nice.
That is
chairs
nice.
than we had
Really
this
on
morning,
fire.
aren't they? We've been in a different room for earlier rooms here.
There may be a plug in right down there. Is that one? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a better room. This is higher tech room here than
Yeah.
Okay. Well, should we go ahead and kick it off? And if there's a couple other people come in, we can hopefully they'll come in during our introductions here, and we will accommodate them as they arrive. But first off, I wanted to kick things off. Get the slideshow started here. My name is Chris Barnett, and I'm the Assistant Director here at CARES. Want to welcome everybody to the All Things Missouri Impact Team meetings. This is the meeting for agriculture and environment. So thank you guys very much for taking the time out to come to this. All All Things Missouri. We'll explain what it is and what we're doing with the impact teams as part of this whole process is to get the introduction to what we're doing and lay out our eventual objectives. One of the main things we're hoping to do with this website, though, is to build this in collaboration with the folks in not only ag and environment, but all 4 impact teams. Okay. Oh, yeah, have a seat.
Right here.
You're at the center.
I'm planning on this will be our 4th in the city.
Yeah.
So
Let me get some coffee while you.
Sure. That's one of the things we want to say is we're all kind of informal sessions here. So if you have questions, comments, you get coffee, stay away from the presentation. That's great. We're going to go through a little bit about why All Things Missouri, what we're doing, a little demonstration of some of the tools we've already put on the web, and then get into maybe some case scenarios as we carry on. But I want to start by going around and doing some introductions because I know some folks here don't know each other or more likely don't know the folks at CARES, and we want to make sure that we know who's around the table. So again, I'm Chris Barnett. I'm the Assistant Director of CARES. Been with CARES since 1992. My background's in geography and geographic information systems, and I work on a variety of projects at CARES.
I'm Joe Lear. I'm Northwest Regional Director. I'm in charge of the 20 northwestern counties for Extension in Missouri. And I'm the roaming gnome of RDs. I have no office. Officeless RD.
Ryan Milholland, I'm over in Mumford Hall, Ag and Natural Resource Extensions. I work as an ag economist.
I'm Brent Carpenter. I'm also an Extension Ag economist and spent at this institution for many years, most of that in a county extension office.
I'm Jen Hin. Yeah, I'm a newcomer to CARES. Let's help with you guys improve your experience in using our platforms.
Hi, I'm Melissa DiBartolomeo. I'm a programmer and user experience specialist at CARES. So my job in context of this project is to take feedback, probably solicit direct feedback about the site itself, as well as how we can integrate technology that you all are currently using or your teams are using or you want your teams to use into All Things Missouri and perhaps build some new tools as well.
Hi, my name is Chris Fulcher. I serve as the Director of CARES, and thank you all really for being here. Can't underscore enough how important this is because for many years, CARES, since 1992 to present, we just go out there and build websites and data and mapping and stuff like that. What we're doing that's very different now is spending a period of several months just focusing on listening what the needs are, what data you need, how it needs to be presented, what tools that do you potentially use with your job, et cetera. So this is pretty unique in the whole IT areas, having the opportunity to do a user experience approach here. So like Chris said, building it with you is really key here. It's not another separate thing to do, but it's part of what we're doing together across the impact areas.
Hi, everyone. Angela Johnson. I'm a data and mapping person at CARES here, and in terms of the All Things Missouri project, I'm leading the health and safety impact team. So I was the guinea pig with our focus group discussions here at our talk yesterday.
My name is Michael Hardy. I am another one of the mapping and data people at CARES. I have a lot of background in geographic information systems. I've been working a lot in the databases lately. I'm actually heading up the youth and family portion of the impact service.
I'm Rob Kallenbach, and I'm the Program Director for Agriculture and Natural Resources.
I'm Rebecca North. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Natural Resources, and I work on water quality. So I don't have an extension appointment, but I did inherit a citizen science program called Lakes of Missouri Volunteer Program. You heard that?
Yes.
And I actually just initiated a high school program called Reservoir Observers Student Scientists, where we have Rockbridge High School students monitoring water quality.
That's awesome.
Jamie Kleinsorge. I'm a project coordinator here at CARES, and I'm also the leader of the business and community impact team.
And Charles on the phone. Do I need to unmute him?
Charles Ellis, Extension Ag Engineering Specialist in Troy, Lincoln County, the east central part of the state.
Welcome, welcome everybody. Again, I appreciate the time, and we'll be going through a number of discussions today on how these tools will be impactful for your work.
Hey, I'm here too.
Oh, hey, Tim.
Tim Baker, horticulture specialist. I guess I'm kind of just eavesdropping here, but whatever.
Well, welcome, Tim. Anybody else on the phone? I thought it would show everybody on the phone.
You go to the top.
Ah.
Participants. Okay, yeah. It's just
Yes,
us and
just the
Mark
three.
too. Okay.
Okay. And again, I want to keep the sessions informal here. If you have any questions or comments, please speak up, and we will discuss the topic at hand. So a little bit of background here. What is the All Things Missouri? What we're trying to do with this site is to develop a site that can help support your work, the work of the faculty, staff, and leaders in Extension at the University of Missouri. Help you better do your jobs. As sort of a secondary audience for the All Things Missouri, we're looking to help support other folks around the state, folks like legislators, county commissions, community organizations, and other local leaders that could use the information. What it is, at least right now, is a group of mapping and reporting tools that help expose the data for your use to help you make a better and more informed sort of data-driven decision and information processing decisions. It also includes links to other resources and related systems that could be helpful for you in your job. So we're looking to sort of compile a variety of things that could be sort of viewed as a data resource and an information resource for you. Is it going to go? What have I done? Okay.
Can they see the screen on the phone?
Are you seeing, Charles or Tim, are you seeing the screen on the phone just fine?
Yeah, we see it. I
do.
do.
Great.
Yeah, I'm on Zoom.
So this project grew out of some of our earlier work with the University of Missouri Extension Quantitative Needs Assessment, where we collected some of the information of the current activities going on in Extension across the state. This expanded vision is meant to bring additional resources, additional tools, and maybe better focus some of the activities based on your inputs to help us build a site that accommodates your work at the state level, at the regional level within the state, or even at the local level. So we're looking for a variety of applications across the tool. We got the go on this sometime in March, and by about 6 weeks later, we had the site stood up for an initial deadline that we had to meet. So a lot of the tool is based on some of our earlier work. We've put in a number of data sets. We have thousands of data layers available for access within the tool. We have a variety of other tool sets within there that help you explore, generate reports, interact with data, etc. within this greater All Things Missouri website. We're taking a rapid prototyping approach, meaning we're not going to consider ourselves ever quite done with this. We're always looking to improve. Right now, we're doing these what we're calling design sessions with you over the course of the fall. Coming out of that, we're hoping to compile a list of needs, both in terms of data and functionality, that we can carry forward in the next year in terms of building something that will actually be used. And again, yeah, it will iterate over 2019.
And that's in previous years, as Karis has worked with Extension. We just moved into Extension within the last year. So in previous years, some of the main criticism from Extension was, this is a little too complex. You know, I know you got data there, but I can't get to what I need. And part of the meetings with the impact teams is really pulling out, lifting out the data that's needed and how we better present that data, which is primarily Melissa and Zheng Ting's role around the user experience side that they'll get into down the road.
Mm-hmm. So why CARES? To segue into that good. So CARES was picked as a partner because of a long history. Again, we've been around since 1992. dealing with data, geographic information systems, and since the mid-90s with web-based systems that provide access to those data sets. We've worked across each of the 4 different impact areas with a variety of projects that we've had over the years, especially in agriculture, health, and community-based work. We also have a history of working with Extension, and as Chris mentioned, we recently moved to Extension. We're full-fledged members now, right, Chris? We're going to get our cards soon.
We think
right?
so. Card-carrying members.
And we have worked with Extension developed tools in the past that may be familiar to you. Things like I worked with Ray Massey and John Laurie on the Ag site, and previous versions of that tool with the AFO site and the Burn tool. SnapEd, some of the work with Joe Brett Rankin on SnapEd, the Community Issues Management, the Extension through Mary Lucy had some activity in there. Show Me Select Heifer project, we worked supporting that software over the years. And of course the MU Impact Portal, where we're talking about the impact of the university on the state of Missouri. So those were several projects we've done with collaboration, in collaboration with Extension. So what are impact teams? Look around, you're the impact teams. This is the team for agriculture and environment. We've identified the other 3 impact areas and pulled teams together. You were recommended by Extension leadership, by the way, as the sort of the key personnel to have involved with providing us information to help us guide this site. So you're asking why you're in the room. That's another reason. But we identified the teams. We're bringing everybody together to help us create this All Things Missouri platform. We're looking for your insights regarding data, tools, and usability of the site, how you might use it, or how you think other Extension folks might use it, and then taking a little bit more broadly, how you think persons outside of the university might view this site as well. This is the first of 3 scheduled meetings. If you accepted the invite and didn't notice, your calendar has been populated out through the end of November on these meetings. We're looking to have feedback from you on our 3 different topic areas over that course of time. So, and the teams are designed to include the field faculty and staff, campus staff and faculty, state specialists, and of course regional directors on this team. So why do we want the impact teams? We want to make a site that you will actually use as part of your work, that you would see as a resource that you would tap into when you are working through your daily work or working on a special problem. You'd say, let me start here, or let me use this as one of the things in my tool bag that I would pull out to help me solve this problem. One of the main points here that Chris alluded to earlier is while we're able to stand at the websites and things, we're not experts in what you do. We're looking for you for that expertise to help guide this process and to make these tools and make the All Things Missouri website into something that's viable. We're here to help you be innovative, as it says on the slide there, help you to do the job. We want to think through some of these processes with you. You say, well, here's some sort of need, and we might say, how about this? You might say, how about that? And we would arrive at a collaborative endpoint here at some point in the process. So we want to hear your ideas, we want to hear your suggestions, we want to hear your criticisms. If you've got anything good to say, you can talk to me. Anything bad to say, you can talk to Chris. Right? Different departments. But really, the objective is to make a site that's usable and better than what is stood up right now. We recognize that there is that need. So to lay out a little bit about what we expect to do in the sessions. For session 1, we're going to be going through a little bit of a demonstration for a few minutes on the current All Things Missouri platform. And then we want to talk about the ways that this platform could help you do your job in a different way or a better way, or just as an aid to the process. As part of that, we want to focus on use cases, where you talk about different scenarios for potential use of this site or how we fit into your current processes. and as part of that, talk about the data that you might need for this particular impact area, the Ag and Environment Impact Area. We have a data list that we'll be handing out of some of the data we've already anticipated, but this is really a subset, I think, of what will eventually come out of this process. We would also like to address any outstanding questions about where we're going or anything like that. And we're going to be leaving you with a little bit of homework for this, whereas Michael Hardy said earlier, work. We don't necessarily expect you to do this at home.
You can take it home.
Yes, little nighttime reading. There you are. Do it in the car, right? So that's session 1. In session 2, we'll come back with maybe some of the results of your thought process on the data identification and review. Once you be able to review the website in more detail, come back what's missing, what you like, what you don't like, so on. And then finish up maybe some of our discussion, at least identifying initial desired data to be incorporated into the platform. And then we would also want to start at that time our discussion about other resources which ought to be either incorporated into All Things Missouri or linked to it somehow or somehow recognized through this tool. So that would be another objective for the second session. And the third session will be headed up by, as I understand it, headed up by Melissa and Jin Ting to talk about usability of the site. What are your pain points? What are the confusing or omitted process steps within the tool? And then talk about opportunities for developing training documents or other things. And then moving forward, we want to identify what additional tools and features we're going to focus on based on those our earlier meetings, right? And that will help us establish some of the plan for calendar year 2019 on this. Yes.
So this whole phase is, we're not doing any build. We're getting all the input, that feedback from you that will inform that build beginning January of next year. The other thing about this project is with the 4 impact areas and what we're building out with All Things Missouri is going to be basically a template that we want to scale up across the country. So that's the aspiration, is let's get things right here in Missouri. Let's really think through, be intentional about what we build out, and then that can be offered as a revenue generating approach for other states. And I know that CARES, we've had the deepest relationship with CAFNR over the years, being housing CAFNR for 25 plus years. So the tools and what we built out have been more ag focused. Thinking about what is proper to All Things Missouri in terms of applications as opposed to what links to All Things Missouri, Raising Wedge, the work with Joe Parcell, these other different projects. And then the key thing is the revenue generating dimension of this. How do we provide a clear revenue generating approach using Nexus's e-commerce platform? We're already working, our team has gotten training in Nexus and building out that e-commerce piece in terms of subscriptions, etc. So there's a lot of stuff under the hood with this. That everything's going to be under All Things Missouri, some things may be connected, like I said.
Well, there's really 2 revenue generation paths that we could talk about. One is, like Chris was talking about, subscriptions to specific tools, or maybe it's a course that you're teaching or something like that that involves these. The other is the All Things Missouri platform itself. We're hoping that Missouri stands itself up as a model for this type of approach that other extensions in other states could take advantage of and work with us to develop for their states. So the work we're doing around the table here, know that this may go beyond Missouri as a model for what can be done elsewhere.
Marshall is already saying in October, November, they want to go to the states. So it's kind of this rapid prototyping approach. It scares me a little, but this is where we're at. And I think it's really good because we have many, many years of history. We're just basically really refining this and presenting this to other states. Extension and extensions in other states, Rob, you know this so well, is that they're primarily ag focused rather than youth and family or health and safety focused, et cetera. Ag is a big, what's it called? Field for the country. And so we want to be able to position what we're doing with applications that way. The other thing that came up this morning was around data. You said, is all this stuff in All Things Missouri just going to be public? No. That's an important point for, especially for field faculty, is what data do we keep behind our paw print? What do we have available just for field faculty and researchers, et cetera, on campus? And what do we make publicly available? So we're just wide open with this now because as I've listened to conversations, is what is the value add that Extension brings to the table related to data, mapping, the different tools that are available. So that's part of the mix.
So that's kind of the process we're looking at for conducting this meeting and the next two. Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Understand what the impact team is supposed to do? Yeah. Folks on the phone, anything? Okay. Well, before we move on to the demonstration, I want to reintroduce Jamie Kleinsorge. She's going to lead us through the demonstration of the current website and some of the tools on there that we hope will give you both a good exposure of what we've already done, but also start your thought process on what's possible. I'll just, or you just want to read
I
over
can
there.
scoot it. Yeah, that's no problem. So sorry for those of you who've seen me do this before, but we felt like it was really important to just give a quick demonstration as a foundation for kind of what we're talking about currently and where we're hoping to lean on you guys to help us enhance the site. So this is All Things Missouri. As mentioned, this site was launched back in May. We haven't really done too much since then because we've been waiting on getting this impact team process started and getting feedback from you all. But it is live, so you can go to allthingsmissouri.org and play around with the site after this presentation. So here's the home page. You can see the site is broken up into three main parts. So we have maps, reports, and tools and resources. So we'll do a quick high-level overview of each of these components just to give you guys a flavor of what's available on the site. So the first section that we have is really around mapping, and I think probably most of you are familiar with our Missouri Map Room or the Map Room in general. Here we've made it the first link because we know it's mostly what people are looking for when they come to find our tools. Within the Missouri Map Room, we do have, all of our data that's in the CARES engine available in this map room. But we have one thing that is different is we have categorized it. The taxonomy that we use is really extension focused around these four main impact areas. And I'll show you a little bit more of the map room here in just a moment. But first I wanted to point out that something else that we did as we launched the site is we did create this series of starter maps. Again, based on those four impact areas, we wanted to create a few maps that were relevant to each of the four impact areas for places for people to start. Recognizing that most extension staff do not have any sort of GIS training or are familiar with this type of mapping system, we felt like having these starter maps would be a little less intimidating and a way for people to get started playing around with the maps rather than just giving them a blank slate. So I lost my mouse here, there we go. I can show you, here I'll go back to an ag and environment one, kind of what this looks like here. So it automatically preloads the layers that we have selected. So what you can see here is we have some hydrology, we've got some soil taxonomy, and these are both layered here, and you can see that it's zoomed into the state of Missouri. So one thing to note is that this map room is always going to default to the state of Missouri, but most likely, unless it's a Missouri-specific data set, we do have it for the rest of the country. So if you were interested in doing some like peer county identification with places in Texas or Wisconsin or wherever it may be, you could do that because we do have data for the rest of the United States.
On many data sets.
Yeah, on many of them. Not all, but many. So this is a nice starter place though, so folks can kind of see, oh, these are a couple of environment related data sets. They can play around, they can zoom into their county if they're interested in, getting a little bit more granular and learning a little bit more. So this is one of those areas though that I wanted to highlight because we feel like you all working in the ag and environment type of field could really help help us identify what would be some a good additional starter maps. What are some of the most common topics that you would pull a map for? How can we preload some of those layers and really help people get a good jump start on using the maps and making them effective in their work. So this is the larger map room. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of it. So we have, as I mentioned, all of our data are categorized by the 4 main extension areas, and then we also have a 5th category around social determinants that includes some demographic and boundary type of information. But you can see here under Ag and Environment, you can click through and find individual data layers by clicking those drop-down carrots here, and we can add any of these layers to the map. So this is one way to search, is really just by searching through this taxonomy. You can add individual layers just by clicking the checkbox next to the layer that you want to add. One thing to note is that we do provide additional information for each of the data layers that we make available. So you can see here by clicking that little I button or information button next to the data set, you get a nice description, release date, and then a link back to the original source if you wanted to do some additional searching around methodology and such. I'm going to go back here. The other way to search, there's a couple other ways to search. Second is by source. So if you were interested in looking for something, for example, it was in the Census of Ag, which is new data in there, right?
Not yet.
Oh, soon.
We
okay.
have the data. We're trying to figure out how to get it in there.
Okay. Or for example, USDA or something along those lines. You could come in here and search data by source and see what each of the sources have available. The last way to search is really just by keyword. So here we can just type in any keyword, and we're going to use some predictive text to try to decide what is it that you're looking for. You can also click the search button and get the full list of results based on your keyword search. So here you can see we're searching by best match, but we also have a release date option as well. And that would push then the most recent data to the top. Usually that's what people are looking for. So you can see here that I can easily just choose any layer and add it to the map here. Again, we're zoomed into the state of Missouri. At this point, I can do a couple of things. Over here on the right-hand side in our legend, I can add some additional or change the geography here. So you can see this is one of the layers that we have at multiple geographies. So I could look at this at a tract level instead of a county level, which is going to usually be typically more meaningful for the work that folks are doing on the ground. I could, right now we're viewing it as percent. I could also view it as total. So that's one thing you can do over here in the right-hand legend. The other thing you can do is you can just move around the map. So Dent County has served me well these past 4 meetings, so I'll just go back to Dent here. And you can see that it automatically zooms into the area that I'm most interested in. I can quickly add some labels to my map. So here we got county labels, so I can get a little bit more orientation about where I am. And then I can really start interacting with the data on the map. So you can see here, as I click a census tract, it's going to tell me what census tract I'm looking at, give me exact numbers around percent population in poverty, total population in poverty, and then it also provides me with margin of error, which is sometimes important information. At any time, I could add additional data layers here, so I can do something like food deserts and add a food desert layer very quickly just by searching there and adding it to the map. And you can see it automatically populates those food desert layers over top of that poverty layer. And we can start to make some inferences, about the people and the food security landscape in this area if we were interested. So that's just a quick way to add data to the map. We also have some additional tools. We have a query tool, so if you did want to query, for example, areas that have public housing developments, you're wondering what the average market rent is for those, you could say, I want to see all the locations that have rent, over $300 or under $500. It'll produce an Excel file for you. You can do the same thing with the select data tool and select an area and download that as an Excel file. You guys might be more interested in things like the measure tool, so you can measure land area, especially distances, acreage, whatever it may be. The mask tool is nice if you're doing like presentations and such. You can pick a series of counties to kind of highlight, saying I'm working in this area, and either completely get rid of the areas around it or kind of have this nice, you know, juxtaposition of areas but the area that you serve. And then you can export this into a PowerPoint presentation or grant application or whatever it is that you're interested in. So those are some of our our advanced mapping tools. Once you're done making a map, you can share it very easily on social media or through an email link. You can also export it as a PDF or a PNG. I really like this clear map tool, so you can clear it out and start all over, because oftentimes, you know, you just start adding things and then you got a real crazy map. So you can start all over from the beginning. So that's a quick overview of the map room. The second part of the site is really around reports and our reporting environment. So again, we've taken the same approach of using the 4 impact areas as kind of a taxonomy to drive the reports that we've created. So you can see here we have one specific to ag and environment. We also have ones for business and community, health and safety, and youth and family. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how you can make a report, and we'll get to see some of the data that we've included here. So first and foremost, you have to pick your report area location. So I could select a series of counties. I could select just one county if I were interested. We've had some folks talk to us a little bit about the new CES role and about how they're going to be positioned in triads, yeah, or groups of 4 counties. That's something that we could preload here, so you wouldn't have to select those, every time. We've also pre-populated the extension regions, so you could choose one of those and it would give you all the counties within that extension region. So I'm gonna, we gotta figure that out. I don't know why that, clicks down. So here I've selected a couple of counties for my report area, and then I get into the actual indicators themselves. So you can see here we have some basic demographics that you can add to your report. We have things around human environment, so things like commuting and housing, physical environment, drinking water safety, climate and health. I can add any of these individually to my report, or I can add an entire category if I click the entire category here. Again, we have these information buttons next to each indicator, so you can get a little bit more information about, is this the right indicator? Is this the one I'm actually looking for? Or if you wanted to get back to the original source, you could do that very quickly. So I've just selected a few indicators here. We have some more under food systems, food security, and health outcomes. So we've selected these as just as a starting point, and this is one of the areas that we're kind of leaning on you all to tell us whether we've chosen the right ones, whether we should get rid of any of these, or what additional indicators we would want to add to a report like this focused on agriculture and the environment. So identifying those gaps.
So one of the things I should say about our reporting tools and the indicators that we've got in there right now is a lot of those have been brought forward from projects that we've had in the past. So you'll see things related to some of the work we've done around the SNAP tools, or some of the work we've done around other health and or youth initiatives. And we've not had a recent initiative in a lot of the more environmental side of the data sets. So we're missing some of the environmental components data within the reporting tools right now. So as you look through this list, recognize that we've probably got a whole set of sections there that we're not including. The other thing to say is that agriculture and environment, that's a big suite of topics. That's a big suite of data potentially to support that. And so you will automatically or easily be able to say, hey, there's a lot of gaps here. And that's what we want to bring to the forefront and recognize. So, sorry.
No, you're fine. So we have a couple of different types of output options. The comprehensive report we're going to go over. What it provides for you is it does aggregate the counties that you've selected, but it also then shows breakouts for each of those counties, so you can see that data individually. We also show data by population groups when available, so age, race, gender, and ethnicity. When those are made available, we'll be sure to show them in the report. And then we have this availability of turning maps on and off. So if you were to print it, you probably wouldn't want to print the report or print the maps as part of the report. We have quick facts, which is just data tables from the indicators you've selected. We have the opportunity to export this to Excel. So if you wanted to take it and analyze it in a different system, that'd be easily portable that way. And then we have a breakout appendix for just source and methodology information there. So I'm going to go ahead and open the comprehensive report, and we'll show you what that looks like. So you can see here we've got our location at the top. So Boone County and Callaway County are the two that I've chosen. So then right under that, we do have our first indicator, which looks like commuter travel patterns. We do have a nice STEM sentence that tells us a little bit about the indicator in context of the geography that we've selected. So that gives you a little bit of data there. That data is then also presented here in a data table. So one thing to note is where it says report location, that's where we've aggregated the two counties together that we've selected. So you can see Callaway and Boone, we get those individual numbers, but then we also get this aggregate at the report location. We also have data for the state of Missouri and the United States for benchmarking purposes. So when we do have that data available, we make sure we put it in there so you can do those comparisons. We do have source information right underneath the data table, and then also we have an interactive dial here. So if you wanted to compare your report location just to the state of Missouri, you could do that, or just to the rest of the United States. So that's kind of fun to play with, but it's also just an easy way to see how well you're doing in comparison. So anytime that we can make a map available of the information, we will do so also within the report. One thing to note is the data table up here is showing data by county. This is county level information, but we will always show the smallest geography available within the report. So you can see here that this is available at a track level. So it's showing the track level within the map, because that's going to obviously be a little bit more meaningful for those folks doing work at a community level. You can view this larger map in the map room, so it'll take you right into the map room that we were just looking at. And it's nice because it does carry over these red line or the boundaries of the area that you've selected. Anytime, as I mentioned, that we can make data available by population groups, we do so. So here you can see we've got some age, and it looks like Hispanic and non-Hispanic commuters. So those data tables are also available here. We will find one that probably has some trend over time information. So that's also something, when available, we always try to make sure we include, is, you know, if you can see a 5 or 10 year trend of something, we know that that's also very meaningful. We've also instituted this little hamburger menu. So if you want to jump between indicators, you can do so very easily. You can also see the ones that you've selected. So for example, I can jump down to canopy cover, and you're going to see those same basic components. As you see here, we have the name of the indicator. We have this nice STEM sentence that tells us a little bit about it. Our data table that has the aggregate and the breakouts, a dial, source information, and inset map. So that's just a really quick example of, you know, what you can produce in the current reporting environment. But we understand that, you know, as we think about additional indicators to incorporate into this environment, something, you know, we can produce these types of data tables and dials for those additional indicators. So scrolling back up here to the top, just a few other things. You can download this as a PDF, share it very easily via email or social media, print, or then again, export it to Excel. So that's a quick overview of the reporting environment. We have, as mentioned, these same reports for the other impact areas, and there is some overlap in terms of the indicators that we've included. So that's just something to keep in mind. But that one of our asks of you here is going to be to think about additional data to incorporate. So it might be helpful for you guys just to explore those other reports to see what's included and what could be carried over. So last but certainly not least, we also have links to tools and resources. So this is another area that we're looking to build out in terms of what are some of the things, what are some of the data systems or tools, or even just websites that you use frequently that you would want us to put here, make sure that other people, know that they exist and can access them very easily. So right now we have just kind of a series of internal/external tools that we've listed here. So our crosswalk tool, which I'll demo here in just a minute, our impact tool, Explore Mo Health, which is a project that we did with zip code level health indicators, the SNAP-Ed tool, which you've heard us refer to, and then this Presidential Engagement Fellows portal. So getting into the crosswalk tool, I'll just do a brief overview of this. Basically what this tool is showing us is an overlap or an intersection of jurisdictions. So I'll demonstrate what I mean by that. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Senate District map, and I can select any Senate district in the state. So here we're in Senate District 6. I can view the data for this. So what that means is it tells me a little bit about that state Senate district. It tells me what the population is, who that senator is, and some contact information. But scrolling down is where it starts to get really interesting. You can see that there are around 7 counties that encompass that Senate district. So you can see all of those counties. And we have commissioner information and MU Extension office location as part of those county profiles. You can also see kind of what % of this county lives within that Senate district, which is gets to be pretty interesting information. So as you scroll down, we have the same type of thing for school districts. So you can see that right here, there are about 28 school districts that are part of Senate District 6. You can see the total school enrollment, and then again, the area of your community within that school district. So we see that there's a lot of applicability in this in terms of potential advocacy and talking to your legislators about what's actually included in their districts and what's not and why they should care, right? So you can also see the overlap then of state house districts. So there's 8 house districts within that specific Senate district. And then again, we have contact information for those folks, congressional district, and then the MU Extension regions here. So you can see there's 2 extension regions that cover that same Senate district. So we wanted to demonstrate this because we also see that there's a lot of, this is just an initial build of this, there's a lot of opportunity to add additional jurisdictions. So
yes, think about something a little bit complex to convey is watersheds. You can really do something like this and help people learn about who's involved with what watershed. So sure, yeah.
Some of the
Department of Ag, DNR boundaries. I mean, what are some other jurisdictions?
Right.
Our health and safety group had mentioned, having fire districts. We've talked about economic development districts, DNR or MDC districts, things like that. So you can start to see the overlap of those jurisdictions, who the players might be involved if you do have a wildlife issue in a specific area, who are the people that might care, who are the people that might not care, right? Whatever it may be. So if you have thoughts on additional jurisdictions to include in this tool, we're all ears and ready to listen there. So that's really the tools and resources part of the site. The last part is really just around these impact areas, and this is just an extension of that quantitative needs assessment that really launched the All Things Missouri site to begin with. So we've done some digital storytelling here, so we can look into one of these stories, and you can see this one's around rural community vitality. There's a little bit of information that's very specific to Missouri, and then some data tables. This one's got a couple of maps that you can click into to explore more. So CARES this is not our forte right here. So this is another area where we could be leaning on you all in the field as experts to say, this is one of the issues that we're tackling, and here's a little bit of context about it. And we can help you marry that up with some maps and make a nice digital story out of it to be able to share with others. So that's another area where we're kind of going to be leaning on you guys a little bit. So that's my 20 minutes overview of the site. Just as a quick note, we do have a feedback button here at the bottom. So again, if you want to tell us how awesome this is or how awful it is, you can leave that there. So anything I missed?
No.
Okay.
We'll be taking a break here in a few minutes, but before we do so, any immediate thoughts on the website, feedback, impressions?
This is Charles Ellis. I have a couple.
Great.
By Zoom, that was a little too fast.
Oh, was it lagging? Sorry.
Yeah. We need work on that. And what about exporting shape files?
Right now, it's not exporting a shapefile, but that is something that, that's the type of thing we're looking to collect in these sessions is what other types of functionality, data, tools we would need to incorporate into the site. So that would be something to put on the list.
Exporting as an Excel, does it have lat and long on the Excel sheet?
If lat and long is in the data set, yes. Some of our data sets, often when we're representing area, you won't have that. But other data sets, especially where it's a point feature, you could have the lat and long in there.
So then then I could use some software to create a shapefile.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Okay. But right now it's not a one-stop shapefile export.
A lot of our data sets will map to standard geographies such as counties or watersheds, and there's other resources, including resources here at the University of Missouri that we can link to for download of those shapes. So the Missouri Spatial Data Information Service lets you download the Missouri County boundaries, for instance. And so there's a variety of ways to tackle the issue of getting that data back into a shape if that's your desire.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
I was just gonna ask a question. So it's like the cares.missouri.edu, is this everything that's gonna be through this now, or are you all gonna still maintain another separate?
We have a cares.missouri.edu that is migrating over to Nexus in the coming months.
We have many websites.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like when I think of Community Commons or your CARES portal, those different types of things.
So Community Commons is going away.
Okay.
So what we've done is taken the technology from Community Commons and built out something called our National CARES Engagement Network, working with a number of different partners around the country. This website is very focused on Missouri. And then,
But it's built on the technologies from our new CARES Engagement Network.
Okay.
So it's like built on top of that. But yes, one of the things we're looking at is making a distinction between the websites that have a lot of data, a lot of activity, a lot of technology involved in them, and where we're keeping those housed within our CARES web service and so on. But we're looking to leverage the Nexus platform for things like our CARES homepage, or particularly around some of the financial transactions that may need to take place around any future tool development that we have here. They have their whole e-commerce section on that. So, yeah. So it's going to be a real symbiotic relationship, we're thinking.
So we just, I mean, your question is good because we don't want to be all things to all people. We really want to be
despite the
about
name.
What we build out, what tools, and I think what the real differential around this website is the acquisition of state level data and local and regional data that doesn't exist in other forms. In other words, state level data that doesn't get aggregated nationally. So the value add is what state data can we collect? What primary data can be collected as well? So field faculty potentially collect very basic attributes related to, ag, and health and safety, maybe grocery stores or farmers markets, etc. And being able not to have some onerous evaluation monitoring multi-page thing to fill out. It's just 2 or 3 simple things that we can tie to each county and start pulling that data together.
But what we're really looking for is ideas around what is needed, and then we figure out the mechanics of how to implement that on down the road. But this fall is really an information gathering process. As Chris mentioned, a lot of the information that's available through All Things Missouri right now is a lot of basic secondary data on a national basis. We're looking to specialize that a little bit more to Missouri.
And another thing, when we started that quantitative needs assessment a while back, there were 2 different groups. One is, what is all the data that exists in Missouri that we can consider quantitative? We didn't want to go down that road because we didn't want to just be a data warehouse of all things data. Right. Instead, focusing on what are the issues. If the issue is X, Y, or Z, we need to collect data A, B, and C. So that's really the part of the process here, is being intentional and prioritizing what data we want to collect.
Okay. Any other thoughts? We'll go ahead and take about a 10-minute break. Get back together shortly after 3. There's fruit, Drinks here, coffee, if you need to stay awake, all this is right here. So, great. Restrooms across the hall. Okay. So is that the fourth time? Third? Let's go.
I know. I was gonna tell you I did get a PRF insurance article drafted for the financial ag lender seminar book, so I got PRF.
Yes. The older one.
Anyways, I drafted and I sent it today. So Ray knows if I miss anything. He said, nope, good. That's something else. My deal on those things, I do like one ever so often. It doesn't hit me all at the end. It's bang, bang, bang. So,
Yeah. I know. They said yesterday they still don't have guys.
Right.
Well, I can tell you all the issues we ran into with it.
Right.
No matter what you do.
We've uncovered a few more.
I gotta look back at these and
So anyway, so
Partially open,
part of
one
our
eye.
stuff like that. If it's an existing guide sheet, they would send us.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
right in there,
it's like PDFs and apps.
Yeah.
So they said to us, and they said, by the way, if you want to do this, you have to have the MU fonts, which are not typical with like, that can be found in the Bible.
Are you ready to do it?
For us to buy the fonts just for one user costs $250. Just to buy the font to load into Adobe to be able to print and match the short fonts that we're supposed to use as standard, blah, blah, blah. Ray got mad.
You were right.
Everybody's gonna have to spend a couple of bucks on official fonts. So like, and that started some discussion back and forth. So now they left it, but they said, just make the edits to the text. And we'll have somebody in our shop change the fonts, match the anything, you know, load into the. So we got the proposed edits already, and it's working on putting those into the guide sheet and we're supposed to send it back to them. So that's where we're at. It was some whole process turned into. Yeah, there's an official.
I mean, like,
Yep, we pay every time we pay an annual license for the what we call the Adobe Suite, which has InDesign, the ones we use, Photoshop, InDesign, Dreamweaver, Illustrator. Probably the four that Hannah and I probably use the most. And people pay for that on an annual basis, not cheap. You know, I think we spend $100 a year. But anyways, my deal is if everybody's been asked to edit their own guide sheets and make new ones, and they're gonna say, here's what we're gonna make for you. There's some complications that we're bringing. And also when I started getting the VRF guide sheet, I thought there was gonna be a couple links in there, and actually ends up being a bunch of stuff that I need. The maps, the images, the text. I had to rerun the numbers because it's interesting the county-based values, which kind of sets the policies. So basically, like, how much coverage can you get on an acre of grazing or an acre of hay ground or whatever? They've actually been making a lot of changes on county-based values in the last couple of years. Because a couple of years ago, it used to be that Missouri had one base value for every county in the state. It's the same. If you use that productivity factor to ramp it up and down, about a an acre. Well, now they've done county level tweaks based on hay productivity and numbers and things from video reports and stuff too. So, for example, you may go to one county based well maybe $250 an acre for hay ground. You may go to another county and maybe $150 an acre. Just because you're starting point, your base value. And they put some productivity measures in to tweak that. And our guide sheet, we put in a range saying, here's the minimum, here's the max, here's the average across the state. And keep my every county different. And show that variability. But long story short is, the productivity values are increased a lot, so people will cover more.
Max.
Yep.
And they're so engaged. Yeah, we have conversations. Yeah, so yeah, it is kind of fun. But I'm one of each. Yeah. Yeah, and I know the teenagers love it. And they're young horror stories. So it's like that period where get to have your life. Right, yeah. I don't think it's too hard for too long, but still every time I complain, I'm like, no matter who you are,
That sounds interesting, what you're doing with Rockbridge.
yeah.
And the lakes, what?
So that's the one.
Yeah,
So I mean that's the thing. I don't transport those students. So yeah, they have to be able to walk and sample on their own. Regularly, yeah. So actually, we just were expanding that to 5 other states now. We're selecting sites in high school teachers. And it's hard to find a combination of one high school teacher with a high school that can walk to the lake, and like all of that. Right. Yeah, well, we're trying to get gradient and latitude as well. So the winter, yeah, they're like, so what do we do in the winter? And I'm like, drill holes. So we'll see what the liability conversations have.
Some area operator out there, let's say was that in insurance thing. That's what we try to lead into schools.
Yeah. It's harder to get them.
Because yeah. But I was always trying to work out that every year we get more and more insurance stuff. But all those I'm doing here too.
Yeah, that's one thing that comes to my mind looking at the stuff is citizen science apps and stuff in water quality. So they exist in a larger context, but not for Missouri. So right now, there's a boom of getting calls from MDNR and all those things. Citizens could raise that red flag 2 days ago.
System. Joe didn't want to do that forever. Look at the numbers of what these are as far as type investment.
Yeah, and even with our volunteer program,
on what's the return on assets.
Writing their water systems down, sending it to us, correlated 8 months later, if there was an incident,
So are you involved with the speed teams?
Not directly, no. I'm aware of them, so Junior Jack Jones, and also I have and so he has 2 divisions, Tony's our yeah, Tony does. So they write the student team reports as a private consulting enterprise. So I'm not directly involved in it, although I've heard, actually. So we call it. Oh, yeah, website too, but you know, it's not. We have somewhere where pictures are
Yeah, years ago, we did something with string teams, but they were getting on and registering their.
Brent White has more outreach.
Each team
that you have going out.
They're going upstream, upstream, that sort of thing. And we'll turn all that over to this is EDC first and then DNR. I haven't looked lately, but I'm not sure they're still running anything like that. Teams.
Right, I haven't seen
that nice kind of stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately true. Yeah, then we have another new hire in the school, David, who's a social scientist, and he's worked with hydrologists and stuff. In terms of like water levels, flood warnings and stuff. They have a stream and they have a ruler, and people just have to walk up to the water level.
Or you mean the map?
Or you mean the
map.
yeah, okay.
Well, okay, I know it was an oak tree.
You can't see
Is
the
that,
rest.
is that the big one?
It is.
That's
Okay.
here in Boone County, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Down the bottom.
The borough, yeah.
You took that
So
picture?
y'all were doing a lot of your own photos?
We got it on.
No, we're relying on, there's a set of photos through the university that we've been using, and I think it's maybe one of those, but we also have some other stock photo things. If you notice that one report we went into that showed the little, the rural town, I think it just chopped off at the edge. It looked like a state of Iowa highway sign. Or Ohio, actually, Ohio.
Yeah, it was Highway 20 or something, I was thinking.
Yeah.
Louisiana or
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get some more Missouri specific photos.
Oh,
That's part of the user
well,
experience, right?
yeah.
Some limited extension has some sort of
Yeah.
data bank. I'm not sure.
Some of these are from the I don't know if they're from the extension specifically. These are from the University of Missouri, Communicate on Demand, and that website there that we have for putting together some standard stuff. So
You can take a road trip. Take your own
yeah,
photos.
digital camera, got your iPhone. Well, let's gather back up, folks, and continue in on the second part of this. I don't know where are Rob and Chris out having a powwow. Yeah. Are you taking off? Okay, so got our folks on the phone. And Jane, are you taking the notes on the case scenarios? Or who is?
Yeah, I can come back up and do that.
That'd be great. That'd
Okay.
be great. Because I'm not the fastest typist.
Sure.
So first off, let's talk a little bit about where we want to head with the second half of the meeting here, and that's working on our case scenarios, and related to that, some of the data that needs to be incorporated into the system, and how to help us here to carry things forward. So the case scenarios are really talking about how you see on the All Things Missouri website being used within your job, either by yourself or others in like roles within Extension. And so we're doing scenario building. We're talking about how you use it, what information is needed, who it would impact, and the viewpoint from yourself or from an Extension person, but also potentially the viewpoint from other folks in related fields. So you're working, for example, with the schools. How might they use something to All Things Missouri to help you conduct your work in the school? So that's kind of the outline for the scenarios, and it's really a sort of a brainstorming or idea building type of session that we wanted to have happen. So with that in mind, what are some of the things that some of the scenarios you would see that the All Things Missouri website can be useful as a tool in conducting your work? Rebecca, you mentioned some
Sure.
things with the schools.
So citizen science kind of apps and things like that. So there's some that exist out there. There's one called Bloom Watch. So if someone notices a harmful algal bloom occurring on their lake, then they could enter it into Bloom Watch. And there's even apps that have like you take a picture, how green is it, or kind of some pigment analysis to be done and that kind of thing. Lake Observer is another one that's deployed on a global basis, and so it's basically just what's happening in your lake today. You can also use it for water level things. So Damon Halls is a social scientist in School Natural Resources, and he's done work where you just put a gauge, like a ruler, in a stream, and then every time someone walks up to the ruler and the sign, they just enter in what the reading was. And so when you look at like USGS gauges or the quantity of information you need from that, citizens just participate could enter that.
So you're saying these are existing apps, and we need to have the output be exposed through All Things Missouri?
Yeah, so we can make it specific. So I don't know how many Missourians participate in these apps.
Well, you could use All Things Missouri to help promote them too.
Exactly. Yeah. And we could have a little hotspot of activity and stuff. And so between the stream team and then Lakes of Missouri Volunteer Program, we already have a cohort of volunteers. And so getting them to kind of, information that they do. And even our LMVP ones collect quantitative information like the Secchi disk depth, so that's the clarity of the water. Mm-hmm. And so again, if you had that up and people could check it to know that day whether they want to go swimming, or MDNR has a map where they use for E. coli.
concentrations on public state beaches. So you overlay that with some kind of water quality information in terms of how green is the water for that. So yeah, so see that being kind of cool. We're going into, I don't know how political this would get, but a nutrient criteria realm where we define whether or not things are impaired. That might be good for citizens to know. That hasn't been defined yet, but when it does.
Well, even just backing on things on maps like the 305 or 303D lists of impaired waters could be good information to have on the system. That kind of thing, just for a very basic starting point.
Yeah, because MDNR doesn't close beaches anymore. They just close warnings, and they expect people to go to their website. So yeah, having something kind of interactive that's easier for the public to access. Wow. Cool. Yeah, read signs when you go to beaches. That's good. Yeah, there's some places.
Well, that's great. So tying into maybe existing applications to bring in the citizen scientists to help us both populate data and keep it current. And
yeah, and then they'll use it, right? I mean, if they're adding data to it, they're going to come check. Well, oh, just use my data, it's there, so you could have, increased users as well.
Any other thoughts or ideas on how you might use this within the course of your work?
I mean, I probably go into it's more the whole ag site kind of look, at Ray and John and kind of stuff of, if I'm a livestock person, if I want to understand what are all the concerns for key environmental things around where I'm able to put a livestock operation. But you can also kind of reverse that too. If I was a citizen and there's a livestock operation, what are some key environmental things around me? You can kind of look at it both ways essentially. So
right, and we need to discuss with Ray what's happening with the ag site and so on over the course of this fall, because I can see it being a very useful add-on to the All Things Missouri as a very specific type of tool and report.
I mean, for example, like you'll see it a lot of times, like if a farmer's going to get a loan for a livestock operation, the bankers or the FSA may say, we want to see the ag site report. That's very common to see. That they want to see, understand that, is there anything that we're not seeing about this that could be a concern?
It's similar to the discussion we had in terms of how revenue generating for different tools.
Yep.
What lives inside All Things Missouri as opposed to what connects to it? The ag site is a good example. It's a standalone site for generating revenue. And how we do that, how we charge for that in terms of generating a report is something, a shared revenue, a revenue sharing approach with Ray, for example, and what would come back to CARES for maintaining that.
You get your cut, I don't know.
So that can go for a number of applications.
Right.
So I think,
and I've always thought ag site could get to that point where, if you do this, it's X amount of dollars per report, or if you want a subscription, maybe you'll do as many reports as you want, or whatever.
Yeah, there's various scenarios. We're talking to them on other things where you might have, get one report free, and then after that you charge, or something like that. Whatever the business model is, but certainly the things like ag site, the opportunity to discuss revenue generation and to help support the sites themselves.
Right. Because I think there's other things that could be added to ag site too that can, other types of data sets that could be added to even improve it.
So what are the other types of data sets you're thinking you would use in the course of your work? I mean, not just added to ag site, but I know you work a lot with, also working with health ordinances.
And that's another thing too is, health ordinance is a big topic of, John Lordy has that kind of that standalone site where he kind of puts different things, but some of that stuff can be incorporated into it as well. And there may be some other types of DNR data that can be added to ag site of it too. I'm not up to speed on exactly what types of data layers are out there, but as far as other things I work a lot with is USDA data is probably one of the predominant things, whether it's annual survey data or sensitive agriculture or ERS type stuff, or some of that stuff's up to the county level as well. But
like crop insurance.
Crop insurance would be another one through USDA Risk Management Agency, our banks. We actually, sometimes we'll make some internal maps, very basic maps in our office based on county level data as far as how much insurance payouts were to farmers in this county, or different types of things like that.
So that's part of what we want to talk through as well is not only do you identify the data need, but what you do with that data. You just mentioned making maps. Who are you making the maps for?
you know, a lot of times we get requested to, you know, what, you know, and based on the RNA data, you know, what's it show for the state of Missouri, and be able to communicate that to farmers and other people too. You know, what's been the payouts as far as the different types of crop insurance programs or livestock insurance, things like that. So I mean, a lot of times it's communicated to us. It's a request from lenders or other people saying, "Hey, what are you all seeing in this world?" So we'll try to take the data and make something.
So is that something that you can see potentially being integrated into the All Things Missouri?
Yeah.
How would that change your job though?
Well, maybe make life easier, you know. So
unless you're the one trying to put it into All Things Missouri.
Well, see, that's one thing I was going to ask about. Like, you know, if you say USDA data, you all know how much data there actually is. And the biggest
we don't. We don't know how much there's a lot. We haven't recently.
They don't either. But if you were to go to USDA NASA's website, they have their quick stats, and if you actually see how much, the biggest thing you'll hear everybody say about it is like, I can't find anything on that website. So like,
thing with Fact Finder.
I want cash rents out of it for the state of Missouri, and they're like, I can't find it. And that's a lot of times I'll get questions from my office, Brian, we can't find it. And I know how to find it in there, but it's, you know,
it's 12 steps.
Yeah, and a similar thing we're finding, and we found over the years with Fact Finder, with the census, is people would comment on how much easier it is to find on Community Commons, as we had that running.
Yep.
So the idea is with the ag data, as we collect that, as we start acquiring that's the same story.
Yep.
So that's on one level we'd like to see that.
One of the things I should probably bring up is that you know, CARES traditionally been in the College of Agriculture, and we were very strong in the ag and environment during our first decade or so in existence, and then we started migrating out to rural issues, and rural health issues, and some of the data sets we had over the course of the early years, we've not kept as up to date as some of the things that are in the funded project areas, to be frank about that. And so when we've come back into extension, one of the big things that we've recognized is the need to refresh that data set, re-identify what's important, but we want to take a pulse of this landscape here through this group especially, to maybe help us prioritize, because there is that sheer volume of data, and we don't know if we track down making 4,000 or 5,000 maps out of the ag census, is that really that useful, or do we really need some other type of data?
How frequent would you want to do? Because there are weekly reports on crop conditions.
Well, see, like the drought monitor or crop conditions or whatever, those things, one of the other things you could look into is opportunities for automating some of those things. The drought monitor, they provide a shape file or something? What was that?
I think it's a weekly
I know it's a weekly update.
shape file. We had a query or a script that went through and
process
looked
that.
at, we had like a calculation of the percentage of weeks in drought. Once we had a full year's worth of shape files, we could, run that. Yeah, I mean, if there's weekly updates, there are ways to tap in.
And I know there's other things that you could look into automating, and it just be an automatic feed into the larger context of All Things Missouri. So you could have, your drought data, or your crop data in line with your watershed or other information that you might need. So if you're trying.
One thing you kind of think about drought and then just a little bit we have weather station.
Yeah.
You can automate those maps are generated, on some way. I think that most of them only in 5 minutes. You can map every 5 minutes, but at least some query to go out and get that data. So here's accumulated rainfall for the last 6 months or 7 weeks, whatever it is, or temperatures and those kinds of things. I think would be used by quite a few people.
Then be working with Pat Ganahan.
That would be,
yeah.
That would be
And integrating them, like, so I'm looking for, light data and things like that, and I have to go to like 6 different places, including the one here on campus, and accumulate that data. Where's my lake? Which one's the closest one? Okay, I'll go to that website and grab that one. So some way to kind of integrate that stuff would be useful.
So I recall some of the weather data now. They use radar to look at rainfall totals and then sort of ground truth by station. That makes these things. You can build these sort of very granular graphs about rainfall on a basis that we haven't been able to do before. it's well under stuff, like 2 miles.
I think it's 4 kilometers, yeah.
Individuals report under
Cocoa Ross.
Cocoa Ross, yeah.
Possibility, but
So they can find all that information.
what would be kind of cool though is that if somebody like, I think Rebecca, if she's interested, I would imagine in maybe the levels of lakes or some aspect of that, for her to be able to look at it on a watershed basis, within the watershed, where is, rainfall greatest or least, or some other weather factors that might be affecting how that lake or that stream operates.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a useful piece of modeling.
Was the rainfall over the urban area or?
Yeah, and even, the Army Corps of Engineers have engages that where the streams flow and stuff like that, but again, that's our brutal website and in separate places. The lake level stuff, I have not seen any of the dam operators or anything put that information up on a website that we could access. And it would be very useful to know how high the water levels are. So I don't know how open they are to sharing the data, but maybe it's just sitting somewhere and they just don't have these skills to be able to.
And whether or not the data is available or readily shared, whatever, what we want to do is identify the data that would be most useful to you in the conduct of your work, and then work toward obtaining that or somehow attaching to that information, whether it's we just bring in a remote service that's already there and drop it on top of the map, or we actually have to do primary data collection in some cases to provide that information. So there's a variety of ways to collect that.
Do you have political? You have taxing districts.
We were asked that earlier today, actually. I know that there's some tax district information available at the state, but I do not know if we have all of these, like the library districts, all of that. I don't know.
So I know
If
that
I want to live in a certain part of county,
Yeah.
you don't even get,
Well,
If we have the districts, they should be mapped along the street boundaries.
and might even include sales tax.
But there's a lot of those TIF districts that are
Yes.
pretty small. I mean, like it's Walmart and strip mall, which is have their own TIF.
But I think getting down to some of that even goes like the cash rent and land prices. We can get more participation if people can see more to their area what cash rent and land prices were in their county.
Is that available at the county level? All right.
See, that would be, that kind of a layer could be really powerful. I mean, how easy or how complex would it be to cobble that together?
Yeah.
That's the
So I
question.
know with the taxing districts and stuff, the state auditor just put out like a new part of the website, the auditor's website that has a map and it lists the ton. I think I shared it with Angela. I don't know that there's an API to it or anything, but she's big on transparency, so I'm sure we could have a conversation. And, yeah.
So my thing is if we have to, like we did years ago with early childhood centers, we had to manually go through the grunt work of actually cobbling that together. If it's something that's really of value, that would be that from an extension standpoint that we bring to the table, we can cobble that together. We have to find out the price, and then that's something that can be offered, I think. If it's not available statewide, we go county by county.
Yeah, right. I don't remember a similar process where we had to read every health ordinance and figure out how it applied to that county. Because they're all different. Henry County said no operations below, what was it, 767 feet in elevation. Well, okay. You gotta find that crime line across the county. Drop that in.
I understand. Maybe.
The big one's the populated area, and what define a populated area. It's like so many houses within a certain proximity.
So it's an analysis,
Yeah.
to define your setback.
Well, it's not just for, hog barns. Bring it up, so I'll bring up wind farms.
Wind farms.
Same thing. People will be talking about setbacks.
Poultry has a
Poultry, I mean, where, we need wind data and how, where houses are and where the best place for turbines. I mean, if they could figure that out, people can see when something's coming for that, they can kind of get an idea of where these things might sit before they got there. But at least if they're gonna build them, what setbacks are already in place, or if there are any regulations, which aren't in Missouri, but still, they would know if something's coming.
Always the chance.
Yeah, always a chance.
I don't know if maybe we've already covered this. Maybe we'll outside the taxi thing, maybe changing gears too fast.
We're fine.
Some pretty basic data on where crops are and where livestock are in the state, where left smaller. People feel a lot of maybe that's pretty handy right now, but it'd be nice to aggregate it to this, like where are all the markets, where are all the where's all the whatever corn produced, and I know it's available. We're all trying to remake it, but it might take a while. Maybe.
If people are living with alternative crops, we can do those too. Where might
Yeah.
be those areas where.
I do find that there's, I think we're doing all this stuff on where irrigation happens. But looking at that relative to available water, for irrigation, that kind of thing can also be useful, particularly on the water side. Like, the water expert, not a lot of groundwater that's really very useful. Having that can be pretty useful when you think about where the lake can go. I don't know if that's part of what you're. Very basic about where are crops, where's water, all these
Resources. Yeah.
sort of basic production aspects.
Yeah, the lay of the land
Where's
is a big
sunshine?
thing.
Yeah, and we do a lot of the land use stuff, but we could never get at whether it was pigs or hogs or cows or, what kind of it is, just, whether or not it's in cropland or not. So those levels of detail. And then if you go even further and be like fertilizer application or manure spills or things like that, that could be really valuable information. Right now we have to go to sales of fertilizer things and then make estimates based on what we think.
Well, actually, all those fertilizer fertilizer.
Yeah, but sales may or may not actually relate to applications. Probably.
Right.
But actually, they have tonnage.
That's all we got now.
Actually, they do it by tonnage, not by value. And it's important.
Well, there's some data they're still waiting to put out right now or something. We contacted them because there's some maps we used to make based on how much.
They've gone through a little change.
Yeah.
They had some legislative changes.
They told us to check back first part of the year for some of the data.
I got you. But
Yeah.
But at some point, you'd be able to get
So my hearing then, as the next thing after the taxing district, maybe just some basic locational information on basic items, the crops and livestock, things like fertilizers or other potential natural resource locations, areas that rely on surface water, areas that rely on groundwater.
Yeah, some of the certain waters are needed.
Water use.
Yeah, well, not just where groundwater is at and how deep. The quality.
DNR has gotten so much better. I don't know what's happened. But they have a lot of really nice, pretty maps that they're making available.
Yes, I was
on the water.
Looking at those here about a month ago.
And I am
good.
That's the most recent map work I was trying to do was locate some of that to help folks that might be new to Missouri, hiring interns, and teaching them how to learn about their local area.
And so that would be
their
resources we
AFO
could link
maps
to.
or AFO maps. If they got a permit, you know whether it's hog or chicken and what their name is and a picture. So you can go read the permit and all the complaints and everything else.
Yeah, great.
With aerial photo.
Wasn't the same with the TMDLs are all up there somewhere, aren't they? For the impaired waters.
Well, it could be. I wasn't interested.
Oh, okay.
Those are
I
mostly
don't
for
know.
streams, so far not the lakes.
Usually that's been
Just basic, where am I, what's around me kind of info. It's there.
That's kind of what the ag site does, right, Ryan, in a way. Is You say where you are.
You
it'll tell
pick,
a
yeah,
little bit
basically
about
pick the
your contact.
location, you can delineate, here's my farm boundaries, and then it says, bang, here's all the information that kind of,
It'd be great if we did
hydrology and other types of things.
If there was a short list of things you think would be important to a new CES, that they should know about their county.
Oh, I got a long
in terms
list.
of ag. Well, we might have like a top priority list. Here's the quick intro, and then here's maybe a deeper. It'd be nice to give everybody sort of a baseline of information that you expect any CES to have access to help them know their area.
I have a 3-pager, and the first website is All Things Missouri.
All right.
I think Michelle Crowe has been working for the West Central building some data sets.
Yeah.
That everybody can have. So that would be great.
I gotta slip out of here, but I'll just say that a couple of things I might just toss out is, put those grenades in. How about that? Is, on the ag side, getting some idea of the number of farmers in the county or the district, and the number of jobs that are related to agriculture. Yeah. The second thing I'll throw out is just as a data thing I've run into in the last year is that FSA collects a separate set of data compared to what you get from most of the NAS stuff, your cropland use, by counting that. The FSA layer is frankly a lot more accurate than what we get out of PRS. And it's done by different surveys. You'll find about another 400,000 acres in Missouri off FSA, and they're really there. So as you begin to develop that, I can give some assistance there, but I would just say.
I appreciate assistance there. I've had trouble getting data from this FSA.
Well, but there's some company that's basically selling some services based on FSA data, because I got contacted about buying stuff from them.
FSA's got much.
Even down to the Missouri level, I mean, different states and stuff. I'll find the name of the company.
Thank you.
Well, and FSA has gotten a lot better in the last year about it.
Oh, they have.
They've started sharing all that.
I gave up years ago.
You gave up years ago. And we have a pretty good connection in DC on that place on them as well. So I'll be able to get that. You got it.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, I can't remember the name of it. It's Market ID or something like that. But anyways, they actually had the ability, like, you could actually get down to the level of getting like lists of people, within a certain range, or farmers, that kind of stuff as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that out of Illinois?
I think so. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the company, but I got an email from them saying, they're just kind of selling their services and stuff too. And I just
Joe Parcell, I think, showed us that site.
Yeah. But anyways, it sounded interesting what their capabilities were, but maybe some things that you want to look at too, that kind of.
I would like to know about that. Yeah.
Because the FSA data is, if you can get that kind of stuff, that's
powerful. And then there's all the boundary data that goes along with it. You can get down to the exact field and waterways and all of that.
Mm-hmm. I know in the past, every time we've had FSA, it's been like, no, sorry, I can't release that. So,
but they can sell it.
Yeah. Well, this is a lot of great ideas. I wanted to give another opportunity to the folks on the phone. I know we're not saying you can comment any time through the Zoom app, or if you'd like to take a minute now, if anybody on the phone has any ideas for use cases. And you may be on mute.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I have to wrap my head around how this would actually be used on an everyday basis. I do see I was involved in getting a USDA grant about 3 years ago. It's about to end now. It sure would have been useful if I'd known about it was for farmers markets and knowing about the food deserts and being able to justify what we were proposing for the grant. So any kind of grant, it wouldn't have to be for farmers markets necessarily, but any kind of grant, it's would be very valuable to be able to justify your case with data like this.
Yeah, that's been brought up, I think, in each of the other three impact areas is grant application assistance and how this tool could be used just to pull a number out to fill in the form. It should be great and use as a source to point to for that number if you need to fill that on the form too. So you can say, hey, All Things Missouri says it's this way. Go for it. Thanks, Tim. That's very good input. Anybody else around the table with more ideas on how we can twist this thing around and make it work for you?
I was going to tell you the name of that company is called Farm Market ID, as far as the one that.
One word?
Actually several words. So, and actually the farmmarketid.com is the website.
Okay.
But anyways, it may be something to look at. But it looked pretty interesting what they were doing as far as the level of detail they could get down to. The only thing I was going to throw out there too is we spend a lot of time talking about the farm level stuff, but a lot of what I do is tie the farm level stuff also with the business side of it. So like processing industries, ag processing, trying to be able to blend. Like for example, like if you had the capabilities to do a nice map of the overlay and then throw in the ethanol plants or the soybean crush plants or the other types of ag manufacturing sectors and stuff, we get asked to do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, didn't I read somewhere here recently that St. Louis County actually has the largest number of ag-related employees in the state?
A lot of cat and dog food manufacturing.
Well, there's
breweries, other things like that. Other key.
Yeah.
Quite a little meat processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at like Triumph Foods up in St. Joe, I mean, we do a lot of swine processing up there too. So it's
there's a good corridor at 529.
people start talking about economic impact in a county, and ag production is one thing. If you have processing, the numbers, it's a night and day difference. If you didn't have premium standard farms, or I'm sure that's the name of Smithfield up there now, up in Milan, Missouri and stuff, that's the big driver of
economy,
the local economy too. But anyways, so just want to kind of throw that stuff out there too.
Yeah. So back to the first bullet on the list here. What's important for a CES, particularly a new CES, to know? Brent, you said you had a list of some sort. Is that something you could share, or is that a list in the mind, or?
I'll share the version with you since you wanted the abbreviated, the abridged version. I'll share it down for you.
That would be great. Share that back to me or to you. Actually received the invites from Jamie.
So
collect all
she'll
that
get
too.
all okay.
Yeah, either one of
I'll
us.
send you something. It's nothing earth shattering. Just
like make sure you know the name of the county seat and the county.
So is there a levy district in my county? Am I in the floodplain? What did flood last? I want to know these things if I'm the county ag agent.
That's right.
So maybe there'll be something in there you've already got.
Well, that's cool.
Maybe not.
Ag inspectors. People that would normally want to make contact with, whether you're an ag CES or just regular CES.
I don't know, maybe something like that be incorporated in the crosswalk tool too, but definitely you could put something together just for the CES.
So in terms of, in terms of the Census of Agriculture, we talked about ag data. I kind of know what ag data. We are, as Chris mentioned, working through finding a way to plug through all of that data
I
and
know it's a tremendous amount of
Right.
volume of data.
and
Just,
try to pick what's most important. So we looked at the economic contributions of agriculture report and pull some of those layers and put those in the interactive mapping, but trying to kind of distill whatever else is most meaningful. If y'all have like thoughts or ideas on that, we don't want to put 200,000 ag layers on the site.
That 100,000 not going to use.
Right.
Is there any way to better understand where our product moves?
In terms of
If you
crops,
sell a feeder,
livestock.
if you sell a feeder calf in Missouri, where'd you go? If you grow corn in Hamilton, Missouri, and it gets on the rail and goes to Florida, does anybody really know? And it's going to change from year to year. Does that data exist?
At least on livestock, isn't there
That'd
some
be very
federal movement
valuable.
underway to do just
I mean, in Missouri part of Extra, I know like they track like feeder pigs going across from one state to the next. You have to, and there's official data. Like we know how many market pigs leave Missouri and go to Iowa or Nebraska.
Well, I thought somebody was trying to track it down to the farm. Keep track of origin on that was some sort of proposed federal legislation.
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know what the premise ID stuff is anymore. I'm not sure if I really know.
That, they
There you go.
kind of laid
It's
off of some of that. But,
Yeah, they did back off of that, didn't
I really like when
No, I
you
don't
go
know.
into a restaurant, you can see where your potatoes came from. They tell you. Your
Like,
fries.
yeah,
Idaho.
Yeah, your fries come from.
Idaho potatoes.
So it's usually Idaho.
There was the point of that to track like mad cow and things like that, so you know.
Yeah, well, I think that's disease tracking, of course, is one of the things, particularly when you start getting into the vegetable crops and things and all the various outbreaks we've been having the last few years. It'd be great to be able to track it back. And some places do have that already, but I don't know of anything in Missouri that's doing that.
I
So
don't
know where you
I
get
don't
that
think
data.
the premise ID system in Missouri, I think, is voluntary still. So
Okay.
if it was, born on a farm in Missouri, I don't think there's a way to track it. I haven't seen that information, man.
I haven't.
Anybody else?
I haven't either. But maybe useful just to go visit with the Department of Ag and find out what all do they really have. There's a lot of things that they don't have in the public, but they're okay with sharing it. Like, for example, like I could call down there and say, can I get a list of all your feed mills in Missouri? They'll send me a spreadsheet. They have all that data.
Right. Well,
But
they're sharing with you versus
Right.
sharing it through a website with the whole world.
Right.
But
But-
that's a
but-
different thing. Yeah.
But they're okay with that public, be available of me making a map that has little pins across it that shows where they're located.
So, and this is important in terms of what is made publicly available, or this will only be used internally by extension.
Yeah.
And so making that clear.
And we mentioned that earlier, didn't we, about the possibility of having the folders, right, where you could put a file like that from them and maybe derive a product from it that you would share more broadly. But you can have that file accessible to yourself and maybe other extension people.
I mean, getting those relationships and data sharing agreements in place, that we're not throwing this to the wind, this is going to be housed internally. And then that gives you, the locations of the feed mills with all the other
Is
data.
that really possible in Northridge?
Say it again?
Is that really possible?
Well, the Russians are always going to know what you've got in your files.
We have the Minuteman missile silos all mapped, right?
Yeah, he's saying, is it possible to keep files secret on the internet anymore?
Absolutely not.
Can you even have an internal extension thing where it's so easy to put that in a PowerPoint show?
You should not put it on the web.
Yeah.
You should have a
lot of
completely
stuff
disconnected
extensions putting out
computer.
there that they should.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this would fit in or not, but for the Food Safety Modernization Act, there are requirements for the produce that falls under the act to be identified so that it can be tracked. So I'm not sure fully how that will be implemented at the federal level, but there will be some things going on there. And as far as plant diseases, there are several of those out there now that kind of track that. I'm just thinking of like downy mildew, things like that horticulturists will enter on the site, if they spot it and where it is and that sort of thing. And that's a nationwide kind of thing. And it's certainly not for all diseases, but those kinds of things are done here and there.
That speaker's fantastic.
Good.
Wow, thank you for that. Is it from the TV or where is that coming from?
TV.
Yeah, he's coming from the TV. He's listening to us through that speaker.
Okay.
He's listening through that thing. Yeah.
It's very good quality sound, and most of this doesn't get this teeny little thing. So, thank you. So we got to keep continuing to live this up. Yes, not secure, but to what level of security? It's not password protected, or it is. That type of thing.
One thing that I want to circle back to, somebody mentioned alternative crops. Was that you? Yeah. And stats on alternative crops are always hard to come by because there's a lot of data suppression due to very little production or very few producers of those types of things. And one of the things we did with Joe Parcell that I think you're familiar with is we turned that around and said, okay, maybe there's not a lot of alternative crop production, but if you were to choose to do it, where would you be the best place to do that? And we provided several maps on, I think, 16 different crops that the most viable places in Missouri to grow those crops. And so just because the topic is alternative crops, and there may be more than one way to get at that is what the point I'm trying to make. So if we come up to identify a topic and come up short on data in one aspect, maybe we can turn around and think of it in a different way. and come up with something usable and usable
Yeah,
that,
the best
that,
place you can grow it, and we're the best place to sell it.
that
Right.
too, marketability,
So
and that gets in market
we need
studies.
to overlay that together. Because you may be able to grow it there, but if you've got to haul it a couple hundred miles.
And that's part of the report is the market.
Yeah.
So these are all very good ideas. I can see, though, a big issue with our particular impact team is our particular impact area. Ag environment is so large and so nebulous. We touch on a lot of things across all the impact areas, so there's going to be a lot of overlap, but there may be no end to this. So one of our challenges, I think, is beyond just identifying the topics and the potential data to support them that we would like to pursue is kind of reining in and bounding that to do something reasonable within this, at least in this first year.
And this will be, and as we think about this, we're going to pull together all of the feedback and submit this to Extension saying, here is the cost for the bill based on what you all are asking for. So some things you're right, it's going to be a challenge. What is proximate, what is in All Things Missouri as opposed to what connects to it? That's the key thing.
And to that end, we have some homework for folks. And for the people on the phone, we're going to be sending all this out digitally.
Work.
Oh, sorry, work. Not homework, work.
Except for Joe. Joe gets car work.
It made him feel bad.
So I have prepared a list of all those indicators that we saw in the Ag and Environment report earlier today are on these, like Chris, on these pieces of paper. I realize that a lot of those, I'm going to pass that around, a lot of those may not be as pertinent to your particular area of Ag and Environment, and some of them overlap other areas pretty strongly. You might want to go through this list to make yourself familiar with what's already in there. And then what we want to intend to start doing is building a longer list then of the most important things first to start bringing forward many of the data sets we've talked about here today. And we'll send this home with you. Our next meeting is in late October?
Yes.
Mid to late October?
Yep,
Mid-October, okay. Between then and now and then, please think a little bit about this and what data you might want to have incorporated within the system. How can we access that data? Is it, we're going to have to download it into our servers, or can we access it through some sort of data sharing mechanism, or through an API, like through some of these web apps that you were mentioning? As how reputable is the data source? How frequently is it updated? Maybe have some of those thoughts in place, because some of those things, if they're out of date, aren't that useful. And then what's the granularity of the information? Sure, we may have nice rainfall data, but if it's on 3 gauges across the state, is that really that useful? So that type of thing. So kind of compile some lists, maybe related to the document, Brent, that you're going to send to. That might get involved.
I've already done my work.
Sounds like you're done. Just take a month off.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, we'll send you guys the same list along with our full data list in a follow-up email. We are going to aggregate some notes, and then we have a recording of this in case you want to share it. There were other people that weren't able to make it today, so we're going to share that out as well. And then we'll send you guys a reminder leading up to the meeting. So if you did want to share some thoughts on your data, via email or a document share or something like that prior to the meeting, we'd be open to that. But if not, just come with what you're interested in talking about, because that next session is really going to be focused more on like what data are you interested in, why, and what should we prioritize.
And remember, we're pulling you in as sort of the key speakers for others in your area in extension. So you might want to think about what's useful to some other people in kind of your group or your area, your specialty in extension too. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Nobody's running away.
Just Chris.
Yeah. Chris and Rob. Great. So I really do want to thank you for your time today on this and your willingness to participate. The contacts for each one of the 4 areas are up here on the board. You have them in the invite that was sent for today's meeting. You can get back to us in that way. And we'll be sending additional communications. Jeannie, I guess, is sending additional communications in the near future.
One of us will be.
And we'll be sending out a reminder in advance of next week's meeting to say, hey, please, next month's meeting, to say, hey, please either submit your information you collected or bring it to the meeting.
Okay.
Be prepared to discuss it. Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much. There's more snacks, cookies, coffees
Yeah,
available right here.
for the road.
Yeah.
Thanks for the folks on the phone.
Yes, thank you very much for your time.
It was great. Can you email me an apple?
Apple, sure. We'll send that right through. 3D printer.
3D printer.
3D food print.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.